Hey all, welcome back to the shop. My name's Charles. I haven't posted anything in a while. I've been kind of busy with some other projects, and actually this video is related to the one that's been taking up the most of my time. And what that is I'm actually on the board of a local rod and gun club, and I do a lot of the help volunteer and do a lot of the maintenance and stuff there. And one of the projects I've been working on is we needed some more gravel for things that we're building out on the range, as well as roads and things like that. So I've been working on getting a permit for an old gravel pit that was near our, that's right near our range. And so I've been working that process. We finally got the permit, and then I've been working a lot of my spare time up there in the pit, getting it reopened and stripping overburden and exciting good stuff like that. But that leads me to the project today. Is one of the things is we needed a dump truck, so we did a little fundraiser, and we got enough money to get a used single axle dump truck that any of us can drive. Most of us don't have CDLs, so it's something that anybody with any driver's license, your basic driver's license, can drive. So there's two projects really on the truck that require a little bit of fabrication and or welding. One of them is a chain hook on the tailgate, which is it has the spreader gate type tailgate, and there's chains that you loop up and hook, and that controls how far the tailgate can open. And then you raise the dump bed, the tailgate opens a little bit, and you drive along and spread the material rather than just dump it in a big pile that's harder to push out and level out the way you want it. At least spreading with the truck helps quite a bit. So one of the chain hooks somehow, previous owner, was broken, and we'll take a look at that here in a minute. So we're going to fabricate and weld on a new piece for that. The other thing is the battery is held on by a piece of twine right now. So since we're going to be bumping around on roads and stuff, I want to make a good battery hold down bracket that will hold that secure, and not only possibly not let it tip out of there, but even just rubbing around, it might rub a hole in it. But first we'll start with the chain hook. Let's step outside, take a look at the truck, and look at what we've got to fix on the chain hook. Alright, so here's the truck. It's a 1978 Ford F800 with the Heil 6-yard dump body on it. The truck has quite a few miles, almost 300,000 miles, and the dump body is in excellent condition, so I don't believe they've spent their whole life together. But overall, it's very good shape. I've been going through it, giving it a tune-up, doing the new spark plugs, wires, changing the oil. I changed the oil in the rear end and topped off the transmission, and I got to go through and grease it and fix these couple of things, and then she'll be ready to go. Let's take a look at the chain hook that we're going to repair. Okay, so here's the two chain hooks, and you can see this one's broken. Now how they managed to break that, I don't know. Perhaps the metal was brittle. This looks like it's just a piece of 3-inch angle iron that's 3/8 thick, and then it's bent slightly here after they do the slot that you can see here. The chain hooks up in there. So I don't know if maybe the metal was just a little brittle from where they bent it. They didn't get it hot enough. I'm not really sure. Maybe somebody tried to do something stupid like hook a chain on here and pull something out. I don't know why, when you have a hitch and some safety chain hooks down here that you could use. But so what we're going to do is smoke this one off and leave the base piece attached to the tailgate. Cut a new piece of angle. I have some material we can use that I picked up. We'll drill a hole, cut the slot, and then we'll get her in the vise and do a little heat and beat to give it this little bit of angle that I guess helps hold the chains. And then we'll come out here and we'll get this thing situated to make sure that we get them level, because when the tailgate opens, and this thing, I've got it unlocked, the bed's down and it's very heavy, so you can't really move it much, but we want, when the tailgate opens, both chains have more or less equal tension. We don't want one that's slack and one that's taking all the weight. So, and that could cause problems all by itself. So let's go back in the shop and take a look at our material and see what it is we're going to do. Okay, here's our material. I got the same stuff, 3-inch angle iron, 3/8 thick. I got a little bit longer because what I hope to do is drill the hole where we need it, and then be able to clamp it in the bandsaw and let it cut the slot for me. So hopefully that works out. But the piece that's on the truck today is just a skosh over 3 inches long. So I want to be a little bit less than that, so hopefully when I weld it, I can tie in this metal, the base metal that's going to be left from the one that's on there now, plus the outside weld. So I was thinking right around 2 3/4, something like that. This one. Sharpie that so it's a little easier to see. Now when I look at the part that's out there, it appears that it's a 1/2 inch wide slot. So we're going to drill a 1/2 inch hole, and it appears to need to be about 1 1/4 inches down. So we're at 2 3/4, so we need to be at 1 3/8. So we need to be right around here. And then down. You still see that? This is my square. Yep. Alright, so let me, I'll center punch that and then go over to the drill press and drill it. And then we'll see about getting it clamped up in the horizontal bandsaw and see if we can't cut our slots. Alright, here's our hole. I'm just scratching out the marks about where I want the bandsaw to cut. I know it doesn't cut super straight, so hopefully it does alright. I've still got the rotary table on the mill. I'd hate to have to put the vise in just to true up the slots, so maybe we can always touch it up with the grinder. I mean, you saw what it's for, so it doesn't have to be perfect. Let's go over to the bandsaw. Cut just a skosh wide on that side, but I think that piece will knock right out of there, and probably just clean it up a little bit with the file, maybe, if at all. See how the chain fits in it. Alright, I took it outside and the chain fits in there just fine without having to file it or anything. So I decided to go ahead and cut it to length. Let's take it outside and lay it up next to the other one and see what all we have to bend here. Okay, here we are laid up next to the good one. And I don't know how much you can really see there, but we got to bend this back quite a bit. And it looks like the bend starts probably about as close as you can get the bend to start. The other thing I just realized I hadn't thought about was I was going to leave that existing plate on, and I didn't compensate for the add additional height. So I may have to put this in the mill and go ahead and mill this down another 3/8. The only thing I'm not sure about is once we hang the chain in there. Yeah, it looks like there'll be plenty of room. If we take that back 3/8, it won't be hitting the bottom or anything. Doesn't look like. So let's let me go do that. I'll mill that slot back. I'll figure out how to clamp this onto my rotary table, and I'll just mill it back, and then we'll come back out, or we'll work on bending it, and then we'll come back out, clean off the old bracket, and weld on the new one. All right, we've reached the heat and beat portion of tonight's episode. Now, I mostly run propane with my cutting torch, and then also for heating. I do have acetylene, but since propane is so much cheaper than acetylene these days, I really prefer the propane. Now, you do have to run a special tip to run propane with your torch, or a gas other than acetylene, and it's one of these. It's a special 2-part tip, and you just run that in your torch. You can get it to work, I think, with the regular tip, but it doesn't work very well, so you're better off just buying these tips. If you do enough heating or enough cutting, you'll pay for switching over to propane, even though you got to buy special tips. So let me get you zoomed in closer, and we'll start heating and beating. Okay, I got the initial bending done. I actually forgot to, I'm just going to keep this around so I can see what you're seeing here. I got the initial bending done. I actually forgot to turn the camera back on. I was heating back here. I need to move down and heat here and bend these ends about a 1/4 inch more just to kind of match what's already on the truck. So let's get fired up. Made these soapstone marks just for reference. Saw where I needed the extra bend. Good. Going to take it outside and just see how we are. Okay, angle looks good. We're going to let this cool off. While we do that, we'll take the plasma out there and smoke the other finger and stuff that's left on the other one and grind it down and get it ready for welding. Alright, so what I've done here is set both of these brackets to the same length on their respective chains. And then I've got a block of wood wedged in here so that this one is tight. And then I know when I put this one up into place, as long as it's tight, it's in the correct position, because we want both chains to take an even amount of force when the tailgate opens. As the gravel or whatever you're hauling comes back and hits it, you don't want, one side super loose and the other one super tight. We want to both take about the same amount of load. So about right there is where we want to be. So let me get the welder set up. We'll tack it, and then we'll weld the piss out of it. That thing's heavy. Yes, I am cheating a little bit using the tractor to hold the tailgate up. But if it lets go, I'm out of the way of the swing. It'll just swing away from me. And I'd like to get as good a weld as possible. I'm okay at welding out of position, but I'm much better welding, when things are more flat. So let me get this thing welded in here. So it's a couple days later. I actually got interrupted the other day and had to move the truck and all my equipment and stuff out of the way so my son could get his crap back in the shop, his dirt bike and whatnot. But so here's our finished chain hook. Nice and solid. Looks good. When you pop the doors, both chains take pressure pretty evenly. So I think it's going to work well. So the next thing we got to do on here is work on the battery. I'll take you up front here and we'll take a look at the high-tech way that it's held in today and then what we're going to do to change it. Okay, we're up here in the passenger side front wheel well, and this is where the battery is, and it's held in by this super high-tech device here. Unfortunately, that doesn't, might keep it from tipping out, but it doesn't keep it from rocking around. It doesn't keep it from sliding around. So my concern is working this off-roader on dirt roads, with vibration, we can end up wearing a hole in the battery. So I want to have a regular battery hold-down clamp. So what I have, and I'll show you once we get back inside the shop, is a bunch of small angle iron. That was some scrap that I got from something, and probably end up drilling. There's a hole here. They got this grounding strap in this one, so maybe end up kind of making a bar that goes across in on the front. And then there's a couple extra holes, and we can use some J-bolts or something to hold it down. So let's go into the shop, take a look at the materials. And this is a Group 27 battery. I have another one that size actually as a spare inside the shop, so we can use it for at least an initial mock-up and tacking things together. So let's go take a look at that. Alright, digging through the scrap bin, this is what I've come up with. I've got a bunch of this various pieces of old angle. So I'm thinking I'd like to have this bar across there as the hold down. It already has these holes in it, but they're only spaced at like 14 inches. And the battery tray that it's in is like 16 1/4 to the outside and 13 1/2 on the inside. So they need to be spaced about 15 inches apart to kind of center them up on the lip. So I'll probably just drill new holes, coming 1/2 inch from each end, drill new holes, and then because this is, you know, metal bar, we can obviously, if it works loose, we can short out the battery, which is bad juju. I figure I'll just take this, got this other little piece of scrap. It's 4 inches long. And this little guy's 3 inches. Little piece of 1/2 inch tubing. And just kind of center the whole thing up, square it up, center it up, and probably just weld it in place. And then I'll, since I'm using J-bolts, I use those J-bolts with the wing nuts, I'll probably notch out the upper part of this here. Just take a notch that out so we have a flat out there where it's easier to, or so the nuts will spin and you can grab a hold of them. And then we'll spray paint the thing up, you know, probably sandblast it, spray paint it, get it mounted, and we'll be good to go. So let's get started drilling the holes, and we'll probably sandblast it then and make it nice and clean for welding. There's a little trick here. You can see that I don't really have a way to hold the chuck key on my drill press, so I just put one of these rare earth magnets on the back of the chuck key, and then I just stick it right to the side of my drill press, so it's always there and I'm never looking for the stupid thing. Alright, these are our new holes over here. So let's hit the sandblaster with all our parts, and we'll get ready to weld this baby up. Alright, here we are, got our parts back out of the sandblaster. I just did a quick hack job there with a 4.5 inch grinder and a metal cutoff wheel to give us some room for our wing nuts that are going to be there. So basically what we want is the battery is about 6 3/4 wide. So as long as we're roughly, you know, between the edge and the center, we're 3 inches or more. That's about 3 1/4 right there. That works pretty good. So just want to kind of lay everything out. Let's see, we need to make our center mark here. A big piece. We're 16 inches overall, right there, so we want about 8. Again, this isn't a rocket scientist. We need midpoint or whatever on this little dude. And about, this is 4 inches, so we need to be around 2 inches. Just keep everything nice and symmetrical here. Now, I do want to clamp this piece down because it's angled, it has a tendency to not sit flat. So I just want to throw a little clamp on it to help keep it flat. And then kind of want to just square everything up. Alright, this stuff's pretty thin. It's right at the bottom edge of the capacity of my welder and the size of wire I'm running, but let's give it a go and see how she welds up. Not the best welding I've ever done, but this one here you can see it melted. Let's see. You can see that? Yeah, melted through, but no big deal. I got it across the top too, so plenty strong for just keeping the battery from rocking. So I'm gonna let it cool down, run it through the sandblaster again, clean it all up, and do a test fit probably before I do that. And then, you know, if everything looks good, sandblast it, primer, paint it, and mount it up. Okay, so here's our test fit up of our battery bracket. It's going to be pretty close to the battery terminals, but again, that's the whole point in this little stop, is to keep it from moving around. I have the negative terminal off here because there was a little grounding strap that went between the clamp and the battery box here, and I wanted to use that hole because these line up. So that's what this bolt is up here. I went ahead and drilled a new hole and put the bolt up there. Unfortunately, the terminal end on that on one end broke when I was messing around with it trying to get it loosened up, so I'll have to replace that so I can put the grounding strap back. But otherwise it works out good. The J bolts line up with the holes. Now these are a generic kit, one of those generic kits you can buy, so they're really long. So what we'll need to do is cut them off and bend the new end. And because this is so wide, they don't really need to be a J, they can just be an L. So I'll probably cut them off, you know, ½ inch or so below the threads, bend that piece. It's still gonna be about that much height, but once we get it clamped in here, we can come in and just cut the extra height off so it's not excessive. So let's go do that and sandblast this and get a coat of paint on it, and once it's dry we can get it installed. Alright, here we are with our final product. Paint's good and dry now. Got it in there, got the bolts bent to length and cut to length, so it's in there nice and solid. Battery's not going anywhere. So thanks for coming along on another project. Thanks for watching, and please like, subscribe, comment, and I'll see you on the next project. Thanks.